I am Nkosinathi Ndlovu, and this is TCS Plus, brought to you today by Merchant West. For most of business history, technology purchases were seen as an investment. Capital was set aside, servers lumbered into the building, along with laptops and software licenses. The business would then sweat those assets for as long as possible. Ownership was the whole point. In the age of AI, that logic is starting to break. Technology bought today can be outdated in as quickly as 2 or 3 years. Chips are in short supply, and yet the hardware keeps getting hungrier. The businesses pulling ahead aren't the ones that own the most. They're the ones that can adapt the fastest. Here to talk about it is my guest, Shane van der Berve. He is joining us via a streaming link to Cape Town. Shane is the head of technology finance at Merchant West. Hello, Shane, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Nati. Thanks for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Shane, could you start by explaining who Merchant West is and how you help businesses meet their respective technology needs?
For sure. Thank you. So Merchant West has been around for about 28 years, and we're one of South Africa's largest privately owned finance companies. We assist our clients by giving them access to capital equipment, and in the context of this conversation, technology, on interesting variable payment structures where clients either choose to own those assets at the end of the period or simply pay for the use of those assets and return it to us at the end of the term.
That puts you in a position where you can see how businesses are thinking about technology and how to finance their technological needs. What are the trends that you're seeing in that space, and what's driving them?
It's a good question. And absolutely, I've been in this game for the last 20, 30 years in technology finance, and conversations have always been around ownership, as you suggested in your introduction, and sweating assets versus rental. But more and more, we're seeing clients adopting the rental model or the subscription model, just because it gives them the ability to be more agile. As you said, AI is no longer just a trend. It's a primary driver of global technology investment. And what that means is that it's making current technology obsolete faster than ever. The pace of AI growth is compressing the technology lifecycle. And so more and more customers are coming to us to say they want access to technology rather than ownership of it.
And interestingly, this is a trend that perhaps has happened faster in the software world. I mean, we're all used to software as a service now, but you're saying it's also accelerating in the hardware, servers, laptops, etc.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, this has, software has certainly taken the lead in terms of the ability to move from a perpetual license into a subscription license, often through a SaaS model. I think even cloud computing has changed the narrative to from ownership to consumption. I think more and more organizations realize that the access to cloud, I don't need to own my data center. I can simply pay for the use of a center that can host my services. And we've seen that same methodology, that same mindset shift into, let's call it end user computing, where clients don't need to own and sweat their assets. I'll give you a couple of practical examples. A lot of times the software is evolving so quickly that it is AI enabled, and on a old piece of tech, which is perfectly functional and does its day-to-day job, you can't run the software as efficiently as you ordinarily would. So we're finding that software is the driving force behind having to have technology upgraded, not because the technology in and of itself is slow or unable to work. It can, but it just becomes a limiting force in the latest and greatest software packages that clients have access to.
So a business owner is thinking, I need to run large language models on a PC that has neural processing units. I need to do this for all my staff. So instead of buying a whole new suite of laptops, we rent.
100%. Absolutely. So, we talk about a pay for use model. There's no need to own these assets. I think we all agree that cash is tight, inflation is high, and companies need to consider their capex purchases. And we're of the argument that technology is not an asset that one should invest to. It's depreciating far too quickly to invest cash into your tech. So a pay for use model allows you the ability to keep up to date with the current technology without the pain of ownership and then the rigidity of having to maximize your capex spend by sweating assets. There have been countless exercises performed and studies done that indicate that the cost of obsolete technology is as much as 30% of the original cost of that equipment, because one doesn't factor in the frustrations experienced by users or the delays in terms of being able to process that information. And one often doesn't factor that into account. Clients often just look at the initial upfront cost, and then they think by sweating the assets, they are maximizing their spend and their return on their investment. But there comes a point where that shifts dramatically, and that pain point then leads to inefficiencies. And we're simply saying through a rental model, you have the option to, at the end of the period, return those assets. And if in your world and in your ecosystem, you are still able to use the existing technology, you can simply pay a nominal fee and then acquire and own those assets. And I think hedging your bets, having the option to move and make decisions in 3 or 4 years' time is far better than committing to that upfront, not knowing what the future holds.
So talking about that, I mean, there are also some advantages to not owning your assets fully. For example, if you're renting out these assets, then you're getting a managed service in terms of how they're being maintained and security on them, repairs, etc. But
Yes.
I mean, looking at the bigger picture, what is the advantage of moving from a heavy capex investment model to a lighter opex model in terms of IT infrastructure?
On the financial side, obviously, an OPEX model allows you to write off the cost of those assets from immediately. It's an income statement expense rather than a balance sheet asset. And we're saying technology shouldn't be an asset in the balance sheet. It should be an OPEX expense. Often there's the challenge with accounting rules. And so an OPEX model often fits within the IFRS 16 allowances, so that clients can put this as an operating expense on their income statement. And then there's obviously the cost of capital that's associated with investing in assets upfront. Then if you look at the managed life cycle of these assets, one must consider that the upfront acquisition is merely step one of a 4 or 5 step process. There is the ability to keep those assets current and make sure that they are working effectively and seamlessly. And we work with partners who provide those managed services so that the customer has the full benefit of a warranty and the peace of mind that comes with owning those assets or keeping those assets in their environment. Then there's also the ability to refresh that technology. So, often we find that clients approach us 5, 6, 7 years after they've mothballed these devices because they just seem to be lying in cupboards and there's a massive clean out that takes place.
Yes.
And with that is obviously the threat of data that's sitting on that technology that's lying idle. When you move into an OPEX model, it forces you to refresh your technology, and in so doing allows you not only to stay ahead of the latest and the greatest, but it also helps you to, in a structured manner, do a proper data sanitization of your old technology. And we have the schemes and the mechanisms to be able to do data wipes for them, provide clients with an audit certificate that is ESG and POPI compliant, that all the data has been removed, and then create a secondary life for those assets by redeploying them back into the marketplace. And so we're moving from a linear life cycle to a circular economy where assets can be
Yes.
redeployed and put back into other environments that can maybe use 3 to 4 year old devices at significantly lower prices than what they would buy for new. And I'm referring to schools and other donations and CSI initiatives.
Would you say that, I mean, business owners are coming to you for this. Would you say that this is a trend that's happening only in corporate, or do you find that SMEs are also starting to think more from a usage perspective?
Thanks, Nati. That's a great question because, as a big corporate with a big user base, clients have got sophisticated finance models and they have long since realized that rental is probably cheaper than cash because cash is not free. But in an SME where cash is tight, clients have traditionally owned these assets. But absolutely, we're seeing a significant shift in the SME space as well, where they realize that because of our subsidized finance model, they are actually benefiting from a lower premium by paying for the use than renting to own those assets. Let me unpack that if you've got a minute.
Yes.
So because we're getting the assets back at the end of the primary useful life. So when the client procures those assets and decides to rent those assets from us, we obviously have the benefit of redeploying those end of life devices into a secondary market. In return for the option to get those assets back, we invest some capital into the transaction, essentially co-funding the deal for the client. So the client is only paying off a small percentage of the total value of those assets because we're almost putting in a punt or a value ourselves on the ability to get those assets back. We then move from a typical finance model where we're looking to make a return on interest, which is what typically happens in a banking environment. And as a leasing company, we can rather factor the return that we can make in the secondary market to provide our shareholders return on capital. So through our hybrid model of both lending and redeploying those assets into the secondary life, we drive the total cost of ownership down. So coming back to your question, SMEs are realizing, but it's actually not just a budget discussion. It's the ability to also just stay ahead of technology and focus on strategy and their core businesses rather than just the traditional way of buying assets.
Now, this model that you described as a two-prong model really depends on that asset still having good value at the end of the period. So there's a negotiation there in terms of, listen, I'm renting this out to you, keep it in good condition because,
Absolutely.
it's going to be used by someone else later on.
100%. And I mean, typically the devices that we're talking about have got a 3-year warranty anyway. And so we typically align our finance term with the warranty term to protect both the customers and ourselves. Customers have peace of mind that while they're using their device, it's covered by a warranty. We have comfort knowing that when those devices are returned to us, the OEM has protected and looked after those devices, and there is a strong second-hand market for those assets.
Would you say that there are spaces where kind of older thinking, the ownership thinking model is still dominant, and why would you say there's a reluctance to shift?
So in most organizations, we would say there are two kinds of users. There's the mainstream users who need the latest and the greatest technology. They need to stay ahead of the technology curve. And I'm thinking if you're talking about a company with a strong development team on the back end, or an architectural firm who needs to draw pictures and have massive software, CAD software to be able to draw visual images, you probably need a robust data heavy GPU processing device. And so you can't lag behind the industry. Then there's mainstream users, people like myself who pretty much do basics on devices, go out and see customers most of the time, maybe some clerical staff, maybe some warehousing staff. And so we do understand that in those environments, there may be an option to look to sweat those assets, but we would also then
Okay.
suggest that, because these are not data heavy, resource heavy users. These are simply users who are using the device on a light footprint. And we would then suggest that maybe we can use those assets on a rental model, but rather than refresh them every 2 to 3 years, look to refresh them every 4 to 5 years. The point being
Okay.
that anything beyond 4 to 5 years does expose customers to massive weakness and massive obsolescence risk. So again, the narrative is definitely look at a rental or subscription model, but manipulate the terms based on your user profile.
And also you tend to have organizations that have, different roles across the organizations, where maybe someone in one part of the organization really needs to be at the cutting edge, and then someone else just needs something that will get the job done. When
Right.
organizations come to you, do you add an advisory portion to the service on top of the kind of the financial services that you offer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we wouldn't be around if we didn't understand the needs of our clients and build bespoke financial solutions. And I think that's the benefit of working with this private finance company, is that we have access to our shareholders. We have access to a credit committee who think differently. It's not a one size fits all. We're not pushing down a product. And so understanding the clients and understanding their user profile and their budget constraints, we look to find ways to build a financial solution around that. An interesting example would be, again, to your point, for the heavy users, heavy tech users, a rental model where you replace equipment every 2 to 3 years makes 100% sense. For those users who maybe can sweat those assets for a little bit longer, as I said, we will still provide a rental model, maybe a smaller sized subsidy, because the equipment that's coming back to us is now 4 or 5 years old, and obviously the second-hand value for that has shrunk. But often in those cases, we put refurbished equipment to those users. So we're saying, well, why actually buy a brand new machine at a premium if you could put in a refurbished machine that will give you 3 years of warranty? So you still have the peace of mind knowing that this machine will perform, but you're still saving costs on day one for this kind of user base. So there isn't a one size fits all. We absolutely need to understand the needs of the client and build the funding structures around that. Often for some customers, it's a combination of finance. Sometimes it's really just asset management that they need. They don't really need a finance component. And a lot of the times it's just data wiping. Our first engagement with clients is often, we want to put in this rental model, but now what do we do with all of our old equipment? We're stuck with this old obsolete equipment. So we will go and buy those devices from them because of our secondary market. We will do a data destruction certification for them and then redeploy the new equipment. So again, because of the rental model, it isn't a box dropping solution. We're invested throughout the entire life cycle of that asset in the customer's environment. And where we slot in on that life cycle is dependent on where that customer is at that point in time.
All right. Shane, if you were to give one key takeaway to a business leader watching the show today, what would that be?
AI is not a trend. It is driving technology investment across the world. The risk of obsolescence is higher than ever because of the speed of technology and the evolution of technology. And to most organizations, I would say, let's think about technology strategically rather than from a budgetary point of view. Access to finance is available in South Africa. There are more innovative ways of accessing your technology than through traditional CapEx purchases.
All right. Shane, that was an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Nati. It was great chatting to you.
All right. That is Shane van der Merwe. He is the head of technology finance at Merchant West, and this is TCS Plus.